Hola. Greetings to all viewers of the CAA Show. My name is Juggi Bhasin, and CAA is, of course, Conversations and Analysis. I am on holiday, but at the same time, I have closely followed Prime Minister Modi's US visit and sifted through the many reactions to the visit back home. The visit has broken new ground and, in my perception, has heralded a new world order. And yet, despite the conclusion of a historic and path-breaking trip, reactions from sections of our media and opinion makers to the visit is a tiresome, cliche-ridden analysis of events which overlooks how the ground has moved in favor of India. The focus and narration of events of this lot is still Modi bashing, and one gets the feeling that their personal dislikes of the man overrides all other considerations. So, if for the moment we can ignore the almost root canal-like deep rotting prejudices of some, let me break up for you the significance of the visit. The fact is that as the world battles the pandemic and comes out of it, a fundamental shift has taken place in what is the new priority for the world and will continue to remain so as we move ahead. In the past, building up of armies, enhancing the size, scope, and lethality of battlefield weaponry, both conventional and non-conventional, defined the power of a nation. Post-war, economic prosperity, and in the 70s, the usage of oil as an economic weapon defined the matrix of power. After 9/11, the usage of terror as a political, social, and cultural weapon of change, suppression, and intimidation came to the fore. In the last 2 years, the COVID pandemic crisis has transformed and, as it were, restructured the world once again. Never has the importance of healthcare and people care in all its dimension and entirety been felt as acutely by the community of nations as it has been felt over the last 2 years. More than 4.5 million people worldwide have died of COVID. The pandemic has devastated the economy of many nations. The repercussions of the pandemic and recovery from it possibly will take years, if not this entire decade. Along with the healthcare, economic, and social devastation in the world, another realization has dawned on the community of nations. China is the fountainhead of this devastation and loss, and like a rogue nation, it does not own up to its responsibility in causing the devastation, much less offering a sincere probe into an investigation about the origins of COVID from China. The United States, on its part, understands it is dealing with an unrepentant China in very much the same manner the world dealt with Nazi Germany at the height of its military prowess pre-Second World War. The United States, therefore, has launched its own version of the Marshall Plan by promising the world 1 billion vaccines to tide over the crisis. The Marshall Plan, in a sense, gave America its pole position after the Second World War as a just, caring, and dominant power in a world emerging from the shadows and horrors of the Great War. Similarly, the new plan of delivering 1 billion vaccines to the world will put the United States in pole position again and checkmate China's aggressive designs. Now, think about it. How can the United States deliver on its promise and at the same time clip China's pervasive and inimical role and growing influence in world affairs? To do that, it needs India as a centerpiece of its strategy. It needs India because we have one of the most well-developed pharma sectors in the world. India is the vaccine hub of the world. It also has an enormous, enviable pool of scientists, doctors, and healthcare workers and technologists to deliver the goods, as it were. If proof was needed of our capacity and competence in this sector, then the record-breaking administration of 2.5 crore vaccines on a single day recently was proof enough that we can deliver the goods when it comes to the crunch. The US knows this, and that is why it is serenading India. Mr. Biden went out of his way to warmly welcome the Prime Minister. Frankly, the Afghanistan crisis, Pakistan's double dealing, and other crises all pale in comparison to the management of the COVID pandemic. The Quad initiative is, in a sense, an attempt to not only check China's growing aggression in the Indo-Pacific, but it is like the banding of nations or allies during the Second World War to correct the moral pivot of the world and restore order. Today, the moral pivot of the world rests on the management of the COVID pandemic. India is destined to play a major role in the resolution of this crisis. The only people who are doubting India's ability to take its place on the high table are the usual doubters, dissemblers, Darbar media opinionators who have made it their business to run down the Modi government and cast doubt over it. So, Shekhar Gupta opinionated that in this visit, US Vice President Kamala Harris lectured Modi on democracy, or rather the lack of it in India. My response to this interpretation is, when did this happen? Was a special briefing by Kamala Harris or a team held for Mr. Gupta to acquaint him of this interpretation? Another well-known scribe, Barkha Dutt, felt that the visit was all old hat, since America would begin cozying up to Pakistan again, and the AUKUS pact had already derailed Quad. Ms. Suhasini Haidar felt that there was no need for all these groupings like Quad because old alliances were sufficient and new alliances would really mean nothing. Many more of the tribe have cast doubt over the visit as a waste of time and a kind of diversion for Biden from domestic failures and the botched up evacuation from Afghanistan. The reality, of course, is that the world has changed and new priorities are of concern to the community of nations. What has not changed, though, is the rhetoric, narrative, and analysis of some from the media, especially from within the country, who are still trapped in a culture of entitlement that existed once upon a time under certain political dispensations. So that's all I have in this episode today of the CAA Show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do subscribe to us, and wherever you are, whichever time zone you are in, it's goodbye from me and cheers from my end.